Welcome to the program, everybody. Sorry for the little delay. I could blame it on technical difficulties, but it was really just good conversation and me getting distracted. So, happy Monday. Hope everybody had a wonderful Lord's Day yesterday. We got a great show for you. We're going to talk first off about President Trump's, just briefly, his China trip that was last week. Said something interesting to Sean Hannity about farmland, China-owned farmland around our military bases, as well as the Chinese students that, flood American universities. We're going to talk about that and asking this question. If the AI is necessary, if AI data centers are necessary, if we're in this AI arms race or almost a Cold War AI arms race or whatever you want to call it, and China is bad there, why do we have to tolerate with China owning our farmland because market prices, might be affected? Somebody make that make sense to me. Also, we're going to talk Thomas Massie. We're going to talk Kentucky. What's going on between, Ed Gallerin and Thomas Massie and everything. We're going to try to do it as best we can, cover as much as we can, all of these different sides. I think Rob and I maybe disagree a little bit there, but we're going to have a good time doing it. And the Paul Harrell program starts right now.
Paul Harrell program.
All right, folks, welcome. Broadcasting live from the great state of Arkansas. It's Monday, and we got Rob Spencer in the house. Rob, how you doing, sir?
Paul, it's an honor to be in studio, as always, when I can be, and great to be with all of our audience, wherever you're streaming us, whatever platform. We love our LFA TV audience as well because they have the best chat going on over there, lots of interaction. So keep that going. We're going to read your comments at different times throughout the show. So we love that. Paul, I spent my weekend in St. Louis.
How was it?
In St. Louis.
How was old St. Louis?
Little scary at some places.
I'm not surprised.
But we got to see two Cardinals games. Friday night was the big walk-off win. Don't know if people are baseball fans or sports fans.
Okay, I didn't even see so what happened?
So there was a rally, and it went into extra innings and all of this stuff, and this group up in the right field bleachers started taking their shirts off and waving them around like it's the terrible towel in Pittsburgh.
Were you sitting in the right field bleachers?
I was not up there, no.
I thought you were talking about yourself. There was this group,
yes.
Real famous group.
No, No, it's just a group of kids. I mean, I say they're kids are in their 20s, but we were, fortunately at this point in my life, I don't sit up in the cheap seats anymore. I try to get close to the field, mostly because of my bad eyesight, but I'll pay a little bit more for a better seat. But it was so entertaining. They were up there, and they're waving this thing around. Well, it started out as like just a few dudes, and then it had to be well over 1,000 that had gotten it. Just kept growing and kept growing. And then the Cardinals got down, and they would come back again. And so it was really exciting. Well, anyway, the reason I bring that up is because it made it on ESPN and all of that stuff. But then some national news started picking up. Even Fox News had mentioned it. So I guess it was kind of one of those things. Well, then, sure enough, again on Saturday, they did the same thing, so it was great.
And they rallied.
Yeah, they didn't have to rally. Oh yeah, they did have to rally. They went down early, but they came back, and it was just a great 2 games. Drank all the beer there at Busch Stadium. I just had it. I had it all. So we didn't drive. We Ubered. But that's about the one time that I kind of let loose. Was when we go on our guys' Cardinals trips. But anyway. I don't even know why I brought that up, other than to say that was my weekend.
I can tell you had a fun weekend. You mentioned baseball. Baseball's getting my attention again because it just seems like the least commercialized of all the sports. And I know they now have I know it is commercialized, but I know they have the pitching clock now and everything else. But even with the pitching clock, it's a slow game. And in my old age, I guess. There's something, and also obviously it was the one sport that I was fairly good at growing up, and so you just kind of rediscovering your childhood watching watching baseball games.
Well, it's undeniable that they've trimmed about a half an hour off of a game with this pitch clock and stuff. So it was needed. Some people would talk about it and say that it's not the purest game anymore. Baseball was always the purest game. Like, you can have talent, you can work out harder than anybody, but can you hit a curveball?
Yeah.
Can you? And if you can't,
question was that for me, the answer was no.
it's the answer. The answer is no for a lot of people.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. The answer was no. I had trouble just mentally just stand in there. Just stand in there. It's not going to hit you. But anyway, but I could field okay. That's what I loved. I played second base. I loved it. It was like most fun. Loved fielding everything that came my way. So
I think anybody, if you ever are thinking about becoming a fan of baseball, which can't imagine that scenario would ever come up.
Somebody woke up this morning.
I'd like to be a fan of baseball. No, but let's just say that your kid or your grandkid or something is getting into it, and you're like, well, I don't really know what's going on. Whatever, I'd like to start watching. You need to go find some live MLB games, whatever's closest to you, and go watch a live Major League Baseball game and see the environment. And also, you'll sit in there, and the game is slower than, say, basketball, but the improvements that they've made in baseball, it's not nearly as slow as it used to be. Well, anyway, suffice it to say that if you will watch a live game, okay, really enjoy the atmosphere and all of that stuff, you'll be then able to watch a game on television.
Yeah.
Because it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, you kind of
it's just you appreciate the game a little bit more. But anyway.
All right, so we're going to get into this. President Trump having his China trip with President Xi Jinping. And they talked about a lot of stuff.
Did you see that chair crap, Paul? The Xi Jinping.
They clearly had a couch cushion or a cushion in the chair that was designed to make Xi look taller than President Trump.
It looked stupid because it was like it was so blatantly obvious. I would have.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the bend at the knee, like Trump's knees are almost like up here and
sinking down,
and Xi's feet almost. You could even kind of see a scenario where his feet may not even touch because they got him so high up. Obviously,
I don't get it, man. But
it was interesting. But so we don't. You have what's publicized about what you get out of this trip, and then we never know what's really going on, what's really being agreed to. There's got to be things agreed to that are not public knowledge. But there were some high points. Hearing the news that China may buy oil from us, especially if the Strait of Hormuz thing continues to become the modern-day version of the hot gates in Thermopylae. There was that. But then, Sean Hannity went with him on the trip and sat down with him for an interview shortly after some of, I think, the more significant meetings. And they got to this question about Chinese farmland and Chinese students, the idea of the Chinese owning American farmland. In particular, this question has to do with around our military bases, and then the issue of the 500,000 Chinese students that I think a lot of people in the Republican Party would just assume not come here. So we're going to ask. Let me play the clip first, and then we'll get my reaction, your reaction on the other side.
I would assume I'm in Beijing. If I wanted to buy property near one of their military installations, I don't think President Xi.
No, they wouldn't let you. I don't look. It's not that I love it. You want to see farm prices drop? You want to see farmers lose a lot of money? Just take that out of the market. But they've had a lot of land for a long time. Obama did nothing about it. They bought a lot of it during the Obama administration. He did nothing about it. As far as the students, it's 500,000 students. They come, good students. I could tell them, I don't want any students, is a very insulting thing to say to a country. They would then immediately go out and start building universities all over China. But if you don't have those students, good students, by the way, if you don't, and we do another thing, if they're good and they want to stay in America, we won't give them a green card and things like that. And that, not only them, but other countries. But if you want to see a university system die, take 500,000 people out of it. And the ones that won't be hurt are the top schools. The top schools will do fine, but your lower schools, your lower, the ones that don't do quite as well, those two, they'll be dying all over the place.
So I don't know if that's a reference to international tuition versus out-of-state versus in-state.
It's just the question was about farmland, and now we're talking about
Well, so
students.
we'll take it one at a time. The first, like farmland, is that Donald Trump doesn't love the idea.
Okay.
Sean Hannity bringing up that American companies would never be allowed to own Chinese farmland,
Rightfully so,
next to military installations.
Yes,
wouldn't allow that to happen. President Trump says, "I'm not crazy about it. I don't love it, but Obama allowed this to happen, and basically here we are. And if we banned it, or we made them divest, or we took it from them." President Trump saying that would harm farmers because it would harm the value of the property. And you're a real estate guy. You know more about that than me, but that's what he seems to say.
What is it? Is he trying to say that China is paying more than others would pay?
I don't know. Maybe if they sold all at once or something, or they were required to divest all at once. I don't know. I honestly, I'm totally ignorant when it comes to real estate and that sort of thing.
So the farming danger that we're seeing is that they don't have good markets. They don't have, and we had him on the show. I forget what's his name again.
Mr. Stephen Leininger.
Yes,
came on the
that's
program
right. Yeah, he came in. Great guy. Saw him at a store a while back, and he recognized me. It took me a second, but anyway, he's just a great guy, and he was just talking about all the issues that the farmers are facing right now. What they're looking at is a bad market, and it's been a bad market really since 2024, and it started in 2024, and all of that stuff is made worse, and every industry is really made worse by cheap Chinese imports. We all know that. But why does China want farmland next to military bases? That's another question. But just strictly from a real estate perspective, the danger to farmers is not having a market and big conglomerates buying out small farmers, because small farmers cannot financially compete when this market goes down. They can't ride the wave. They don't have an influx of cash unless this crop sells this, etc. I don't know how. I mean, he's a real estate man. He's real estate on steroids, so I don't want to compete with his knowledge in the real estate world. But I can tell you that from a nationalistic look at it, I can't see any logical reasoning that I could follow or get behind where someone would say it's a good thing that China. In fairness, Trump is not saying that. He's not saying that it's a good thing that China owns this farmland, but I think ultimately what he's trying to say is let's pick our battles, and this is not one. This is not one to pick.
And again, what I said earlier, we don't know exactly what all is discussed, what China's getting, what we're getting, but this was obviously discouraging to a lot of people out there who, number one, they don't. Well, here's the deal. We're told that China is this great threat. We're told, as I said at the top of the show, one of the reasons why these AI centers are going to have to go in is because we're in an AI arms race, and we don't want countries like China to basically, crack the egg before we crack it, because it's going to be, there's so much dominance that's on the that's at stake here. National security's at stake. Okay, well, if that is true, and again, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm okay with data centers, because I'm not. But if that's true, it doesn't make sense that, okay, well, we're fine with them being, having our farmland, being in charge of our food security. It was about 7 years ago here in Arkansas. There was a couple of Chinese nationals that were indicted. They were arrested for stealing Arkansas rice technology. Some sort of, genetic seed thing.
Oh, I can't imagine China stealing something.
This is what they do, and we've been told that this is a bad thing, and again, I think it is. But you just kind of wonder, okay, well, what exactly is going on here? Now, we have this here. I mean, just so you know, this was definitely. I want to illustrate something here. This is an old headline from a local NBC News affiliate back on September 23rd, 2024. Headline: Trump says he'll block China from buying U.S. farmland if elected, going to protect it. It had a whole thing about it. He was in Smithton, Pennsylvania. There was a whole press conference about it. we've got the clip here. But anyway, we're not going to waste time on it. He said we're going to protect it by saying you can't do it. Okay, that's how we're going to do it. I just want you to understand that there have been. What's fascinating to me about this is there have been, Trump allies, like Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders and other Republican governors that have taken this policy of buying China farmland is bad and have actually enacted policies to prevent it from happening.
Yeah, pat on the back to our governor.
From 2023, headline, Arkansas orders Syngenta to sell farmland over ties to China. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders gave the Global Seed Company 2 years to divest its property in Craighead County, Arkansas.
Which is where we are.
Then we have May 28th, 2025, headline, Chinese company sells Craighead County land per Arkansas order. Okay, then
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it. Then you have this from PBS Iowa. New laws restrict foreign ownership of U.S. soil. A wave of new laws is sweeping across the country that adds restrictions to foreigners' ability to buy or lease farmland. Then we have this headline again, 2025. New law bans Arkansas universities from farm research with China or Russia. I mean, so we're taking it even, another step forward. And then we have this. Oklahoma's ban on Chinese-owned farmland made an exception for Smithfield Foods, but I'm just highlighting that Oklahoma here
they've got the ban,
is doing it as well.
Yeah.
So again, you would love to be a fly on the wall in in a meeting between Xi and Trump and try to figure out like, okay, what actually is going on here exactly.
I think his bigger goal right now is to get a trade deal. I think he is setting the country up for Donald Trump. I think he is setting the country up for just many future years of success with a partnership with China rather than an adversarial. It's
so normalizing relationships.
Yes, essentially not. Hey, we're keeping you at arm's length. Where there's never going to be any trust here. But it's almost kind of like the mentality that two rival drug dealers would, if they were, if two rival drug dealers were coming into a drug deal, both of them have their hand on their gun, but they're still doing the business. They're like, hey, here's the stuff, give me the money kind of thing, whatever. Not that China and America, I don't want us to compare us to drug dealers, although in many ways we are.
I think it would be inappropriate. I mean, it's not a stretch.
But it's that sort of mentality of, I will do business with you because it is in my best interest to do business with you, but I will not trust you. I will not. And I think Donald Trump is doing the dance right now. He probably has a stronger feeling about China not buying farmland, just as he said. But when he
doesn't love it. Yeah.
Yes, but he's in the middle of a trade deal negotiation. I believe, did that interview happen in China?
Oh yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. So this interview happens.
I think there were probably more talks after this interview.
Correct. And you think Donald Trump's going to sit here and say, "Nope, I ain't going to let him buy this farmland"? Dude's trying to go in there and get a deal. He's a deal maker. So I don't want to make too much out of it. I do wish that he would have come out a little stronger and said,
well, and then there's the Chinese students angle of it, which is also a national security issue, having all these Chinese people coming to our universities. There is a national security implication there as well. As I highlighted, they steal from us all the time. I mean, just go peruse the headlines. They're stealing technology and all kinds of things. Then we also have the phenomenon of the baby situation where pregnant Chinese women are coming over here having babies and then raising their future Manchurian candidates back in China, but they have their U.S. citizenship now. That's a whole other thing. But you kind of wonder, he did say something interesting about the American university system would collapse, which is a kind of a wild claim in terms of, if that is true, how fragile our university systems are. And I've been watching a lot of this lady over at degreefree.com, just trying to wrap my head around, the idea that college is useless at this point in American society. What are you laughing
Oh,
at?
just our chat. They're great.
Okay.
I love our chat. You know, like
So-
I have a Chinese restaurant I love, Calpurnia. Been going there for 20 years. Same person yet. Because they can barely speak English, so I'm not going back. Learn
We
how
had a
to
Chinese.
speak
Look, I
English.
mean, yeah, that's great.
I'm
Chinese
with you on
food's
that.
great. We had a Chinese restaurant here in town that was busted for human trafficking.
Yeah,
Remember that?
Yeah, they were. They were definitely doing it. And
Yep.
when the mug shot looked like a guy who would traffic
Yep.
humans.
Yep.
And so that kind of stuff was happening. What people don't they don't really understand is that you don't have to be an American citizen to buy property, real property. Okay. So there's personal property and there's real property. Real property is just real estate. So like just for instance here, Paul, if you and your wife wanted to put a fence around your backyard, if you go and you buy the boards for that fence and they're laying out there in a stack on your property, that is personal property. But it's the minute that you cement those posts in the ground and you build this wooden fence around your backyard, it becomes real property, meaning with the real estate. Chinese nationals can buy real estate in America under certain provisions. If they have a work visa that's like a permanent work visa where they're coming here and they get to stay. I have sold a very nice house to someone who's a Chinese, very nice guy, super nice guy.
So you've participated in this.
Listen, I took the money, baby. I negotiated
I always
the
wondered
deal.
which of the two of us would be the guy escorting us onto the trains.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's no. I'm just
But we had to fill out, the title company had to fill out something called FERPTA. Have you ever heard of FERPTA?
no, I haven't.
Okay.
It sounds like
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
So it is foreign investments in real property taxation. I can't remember what the A is. Accountability or accounting or something. Essentially, what it's saying is that extra paperwork has to be filled out and it has to be disclosed that you are not a United States citizen, that you're a Chinese national. Doesn't matter, even if you're buying it with cash. Okay, this has to be disclosed. We're going to know about it at the government. Now, I'm not educated on it enough to know what they do with that information. Do they, as they put it in this big stack here, and they're like, well, I think this guy Cheng Li or whatever his name is a Chinese national, but he's bought this house or he's bought this land or he's bought this property. So if they ban these companies from buying this land, unless they ban individual people, all this company has to do is give the money. You don't have to say, "Hey, I'm getting a loan from a bank to buy this 5,000 acres." I've got the money.
That's tough. You got the money.
You know?
You just fill out the paperwork. You've got it now. And if they're Communist Party agents, which
Correct.
virtually that's what they are, it's not like there's they can try to claim that there's a distinction between the Chinese government and Chinese businesses, but you and I both know they're going around being like, you get a business, you don't get a business because your great-great-grandfather didn't support,
Yep.
you get a business, you don't get it. I mean, that's how their system works over there if they want it to,
Yeah.
when they need to.
Well,
so.
I prefer Japanese food anyway, so give me.
I am a fan. I mean, if you gave me an option, sushi or hibachi versus Chinese buffet, I'm going Japanese.
Give me
all
some
day long.
hibachi steak and chicken, no rice, no vegetables, double rice. Give me that any day.
You ever seen those Japanese steakhouses where they're cooking the A5 Wagyu over the little pit that's at the table?
Yeah, I've just never been able to afford that.
Yeah,
I
haven't.
don't have
either.
Elon Musk's bank account.
I've never had an A5 Wagyu.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've tried some American Wagyu, but I've never actually ordered. You can get the Japanese. There's Australian A5 Wagyu as well. That's supposed to be really good. I've always wanted to get a brisket A5. I've heard it's delicious, but I also have heard it's so decadent. The fat is so. It's so marbled and so fatty that when you take this out of the package, the videos I've seen on it, it's like just touching the fat seems to like liquefy just by touching it.
Well, you brought it up. Japanese Wagyu. Tom Segura, I think is his name. He's got a podcast. He's a stand-up comedian. He's a great guy. He's conservative too, which I really like. Of course, you just never know with comedians, but he's conservative. Anyway, he said he goes, everybody says Chicago's got the best pizza. Italy's got the best pasta rigatoni, whatever it is. Everybody says this, and this is the best. And he's like, they're all lying. The best food, hands down, is Tokyo, Japan. Okay? Now, this is him. I've never been to Japan. I have no clue if he's telling the truth, but I don't know why he would go on this 10-minute rant about how that food was so good. But what he said was, he's like, what we eat here in the United States, you're going to see that in the trash can, because they will just refuse to use. It's got to be the highest of the best quality. Everything has to be, and it's all cooked perfection and all of that stuff. So it made me really hungry. It made me want to go to Japan and just just run a smorgasbord through there of food. But anyway, it's just interesting to me. He's like, hey, the best pizza I ever had was in Tokyo, Japan. It wasn't in Chicago.
Wow.
So
that's crazy, because they're so meticulous about.
They're so meticulous about it, and there's things about, like their bathrooms, the toilet. South Park even talked about we got these Japanese models of toilets. They're $8,000, but it's like this incredible experience, and you have to go behind this curtain. Anyway, I digress. All of that. I like food.
Have you ever seen that? It was a limited series, like one season. I don't know what network it was on, but it was called Shogun. Did you ever watch that show? It was a fascinating show, and it was subtitled, where appropriate. Have you seen Shogun, this show?
No.
It was a couple of years ago or whatever, and it's got some well-known Japanese actors in it or whatever, but it was fascinating because it was about this Protestant desire to evangelize the nation of Japan. But you had the Catholics that found Japan first. And so so this is back when Protestants and Catholics were, not just opposed theologically, but there was a kinetic conflict, folks, when they ran into each other. So the Protestants finally find Japan on this ship, and they get there, and the Catholics have already kind of ingrained themselves with the shoguns, the different tribes or whatever. It follows this main character who is a Protestant who gets there, and I think his crew gets like boiled in oil or something. Spoilers, by the way. Anyway, now he's in, and now it's it's kind of like a Last Samurai thing where he gets adopted by one of the clans, but he's got to kind of learn the way. And there's about to be this giant Japanese civil war, and the Catholics don't like him because he's Protestant, and he doesn't like them because they're Catholic. But then it all it all blows up, and it's like I don't know how historically accurate it was, but we do know that the Catholics got there first. We do know that the Protestants tried to, play out their theological differences in a country that really wasn't really sure about Christianity that much. Sure. I mean, it was kind of spreading, but they still had their pagan religions or whatever. And so then Japan gets so fed up with it all, they kick everybody out.
Yeah, the guy just kicked them out.
And they close down their society.
Yeah.
Until right after the Civil War, which is the events of that Last Samurai movie where Tom Cruise is the Last Samurai.
Right. Which is ridiculous.
It is, but that is actually a really good movie.
Hey, Paul, some people are talking in the comments, and I did look it up. Apparently there was an active shooter that has been neutralized, but it was in San Diego in a mosque.
Okay, hang on one second.
So we're gonna do this live, guys. We're gonna try to cover this stuff if something breaks while we're on the air. That's why we love our chat, because I wouldn't have known about this.
I see this here. At least one dead in shooting at Islamic Center of San Diego just after 1 p.m. San Diego police said there was a threat. So it is 3 o'clock. So yeah, it's
just happened.
What is it? 3:30. So 2:30. It's 1:30 in on West Coast time right now. Let's listen to this. See what it says. We may have to bear through some sort of advertising.
Police have reports of an active shooter, and we are going to go to Austin right now. Austin, I understand you just arrived, but can you give us a sense of what you are seeing in the area, what you're hearing from people on the ground? Because we have seen children running out of that building. We've seen police sprinting with people away from that building and searching door to door with their weapons drawn. What are you seeing from a ground level?
Jared, it's just chaos out here. Getting here was actually hard because the freeway was getting clogged up with the different law enforcement officers who were speeding here to get here to the Islamic Center. And I can tell you that there are law enforcement officers and sheriff's deputies here, as well as help from other agencies here. I have never seen this many police at an event in San Diego in the 3 years or so that I've lived here. We were just pushed back, actually, because we were told that this is still an active scene right now. So all of the media were just pushed back a block away from where most of the law enforcement is right now. And a few minutes ago, we saw EMS running in with tarps, large tarps that they had staged out on the concrete here. And I'm going to have Amal Brown, my photographer, just do a little bit of a pan so you can see. We have residents here filming. They're wondering what's going on. The residents we've talked to told me they have not seen or heard anything, but they are obviously aware now that there is a reported active shooter. And probably about 200-300 feet from here is where we saw the SWAT team running in. As Amal and I were driving here, we saw the SWAT vehicle speed by. You might be able to hear that right now. The police chopper is flying above us. I can also tell you that there were law enforcement officers brought in from the U.S. Marshals Service. I saw them running in with bulletproof vests. And over here, we have a really large EMS response. We have some tactical officers right there. And we are told that this is still very much active. In fact, the San Diego Police Department, like I said, just moved us a block away. They said that was for your safety, and we're working on finding you a staging area. And one officer I spoke to, when I was asking if he could give us any information, just said it is still an active situation right now. So a lot of unknowns right now, Jared, but obviously this is something serious, and I just can't illustrate enough how large the law enforcement response is here. You can't see it because of where we are right now, but to my right, about maybe 300-400 feet, there's probably 50, maybe 60 different cop cars all lined up, and you could see that coming here on the 805 freeway. So that tells us that this is something very serious.
Showing that from Sky 10 as well, we can see basically all of Balboa Avenue covered with police cars and squad cars. We've seen tactical units, Bearcats near the school and the officers. I want to ask you, Austin, before we go back to Ray, we saw a lot of people being taken out of the school. Have you heard any information from family members that are in the area or police officers about a reunification site or where people should go if they have children at that school or they have relatives who were at the Islamic Center this morning?
You know, Jared, unfortunately, we don't know those details yet. I was just speaking with the spokesperson for the San Diego Fire Department, and she's working on getting us details like that, as well as a staging area. This is happening very fast and unfolding very fast. Certainly people in the area who are standing right here are wondering what's going on and would like to know that information, but we certainly don't have that information just.
So, again, just after 1 p.m., San Diego police say the threat was neutralized, at least one dead that could be the threat. But then again, they're bringing in, he said they were bringing in tarps, large tarps.
Yeah.
And so you wonder, is it a mass casualty event and they need the tarps for the bodies? Let's see if there's an update. The threat at the Islamic Center has been neutralized, okay. But I don't know. I don't have anything else other than that. So
yeah. And it's just really early here, so we just don't have a lot of, stuff. People normally a mayor or a police chief or somebody is going to come out and give, even though they won't tell exactly how many, they'll give you an idea of what type of casualties we'll be looking at. One thing that I'll say about this, Paul. Well, first thing I'll say about this is not the way. If this was, in fact, religiously motivated, this is not the way. Because what it does is it causes us to lose high ground in our, no, their religion is the one of the savage, which it is, because they are called to kill the infidels. All of this stuff, there's a million different references. Obviously, that's an over-exaggeration, but there's tons of references in the Quran about falling in line or you'll be murdered, all right, and it's okay to murder and rape children and all of this stuff. So anyway, but going up there and shooting up a center, if it is in fact religiously motivated and it's not just some lover's quarrel, you never know what that kind of stuff.
I was just saying, my gut reaction is that this, it could very well be a Muslim.
it very well could be, and I sadly sitting here hoping that it was, and just the same way. Listen, just the same way that every time there's an active shooter situation, all the conservatives are saying, I hope he wasn't one of us.
Yeah,
and so are the Dems, but the Dems are always like, well, he wasn't really one of us. He donated to Trump.
Yeah,
and you're just like, wait a minute, he was, he's transgender or this or that. Anyway. So I just don't. I don't. I hope that this is not. It's an Islamic center where there's likely classes going on and children. I don't care what the parents' religions are and all of that stuff and what they believe. Don't murder children.
Just statistically too, there's also the strong possibility that this could be another. I'm just throwing this out there. If we're going to go down like who did it, what box do we put them in? Mm-hmm. Could be a trans person. Throwing that out there too.
Could be a trans person because of the Muslim stance on transgenderism.
Could be somebody
and homosexuality.
Could be somebody that is Muslim that wanted to be trans. There's, I have no idea. I'm throwing. If we're gonna immediately go there, we'll see what's going on. I mean, we'll see what eventually happens, and then of course you always have to question whatever official narrative you're given. You have to question it as well because events like this are used as false flags a lot of time to push agendas. So.
Well, especially coming out of the state of California, because we all know that the police chiefs are probably all liberals, which it just it's kind of it's a manly profession, which just shocks me that a police chief can be a Democrat.
Yeah.
Now, I know that there was the old school Democrats back in the 80s and the 90s, and so they made a lot of sense to be a police chief, but the way that the party has shifted, it's just so shocking to me that a police chief or a police officer could be a liberal.
Well, and a lot of them are. Yeah, were you just saying that a lot of them are women now? A lot of these police.
No, I didn't say that. But
they're women. Yeah. Which is going to automatically, statistically, make them more likely to be liberal. We do have a problem with this. It's just like the message went out. Hey, make all your police chiefs girls, and then make your judges girls too,
and your fire chiefs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. It's so strange what's going on. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break and reset here. When we come back, we're going to dive into this Kentucky District 4 race between Ed Gallivan. Is that how you say his name?
I don't know, but I want to say this before you toss it to break here, Paul. I know that this is the topic of the day, and a lot of people have talked about this. We're going to talk about this through the lens of Donald Trump's influence over the party and whether that's going to last beyond 2028, because I've got some thoughts on that.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Thomas Massie, Ed Gallivan facing off tomorrow. This is now it's an intra-party squabble. I've been through these before at a much smaller level in the state where people go against the executive branch, and it's like, okay, we're gonna have a fight. We're gonna have a political fight. We're gonna see who survives it.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about this when we come back. This is the Paul Harrell program on a Monday, and we're really glad that you're with us. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back here in just a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red Vive.
Why is Red Vive different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication, So if you take 1 milligram of Advil, and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light-emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with RedVive devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
This is our family dog, Bubba. He is a Shorty Jack Russell, and he brings a lot of love and laughter into our home. We just want to thank Pet Club for making healthy food and treats for our animals. Bubba has been on Pet Club food for a little over a year now. He really likes the Sequoia dry food, and then I put a scoop of the Sequoia wet dog food in there with some hot water and stir it up, and he absolutely loves it. And he likes the mush puppies, but his ultimate favorite is the antlers. Those keep him busy for a really long time, and he really likes them. It makes us feel really good that the food and treats that we give him have healthy ingredients in them, because we want him to be around for a really long time. Our previous dog was a lab, and his name was Titus, and we fed him in bulk, and we would just get his food from the big box grocery stores. And unfortunately, that food wasn't very healthy for him, and he ended up getting cancer and passing away. So we didn't want to make that mistake with Bubba, so we were really fortunate to find Pet Club and find some really healthy food for him to eat. So we would just like to thank Pet Club, and we just really appreciate the healthy food that they make, so we can keep this guy around as long as we can.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for being with us as always. Oops, sorry about that. Here we go. Props to whoever in the comments commented on our audio quality and how balanced it is. I can appreciate that there are people out there that are like, we really want the audio quality to be, to be good where you can hear it. I get it. It was not without a lot. This was years ago when we built the studio. It was not without a lot of pain and frustration.
Yeah, and then you come back from break and you hit the wrong button over there.
Whoa! It's like, whoops.
Yeah. What if, if we were on late night, we would have to change our voice. We'd be like, listen, everybody, we're going to talk about... No, wait, that sounds sexual, doesn't it?
Kind of did. I
didn't mean it that way.
What were you going for?
I was going for the smooth sounds of 93.7 Jazz.
Yeah. I think that's good.
It's time for a glass of wine. And then now I'm back to the sex again. I just can't.
Now you brought an alcohol to it, and we were like, all right.
My mind.
Rob's doing the vocal equivalent of showing everybody's bedroom face. Everybody.
Oh, I'm probably turning red. I'm getting a little embarrassed.
No, it's all good.
Stick my big 14-sized foot in my mouth.
So $35 million has been spent in this Kentucky primary between Thomas Massie and Ed Gallerin.
Real quick update. They're saying that both shooters are dead. No children were harmed.
Okay, praise the Lord for that.
If that turns out to be true, thank you. I'm so thankful for that.
So there's a debate right now over a lot of stuff. Obviously, we know that Thomas Massie is not perfect, just like anybody isn't perfect. Like no one is saying. I mean, maybe there are some Massie supporters that think that, but I don't think there are. Then you have the other candidate. How do you say this guy's name? For whatever reason, I'm having a mental block exactly on how to say his name, Gallerin. Let me go to the Politico story here. Maybe they have I can't see the name in my head, spelled out in my head, so that's why I'm having such a problem. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out here in a minute. So Politico, and I'm going to take this with a grain of salt. Politico is writing this headline: Massey's primary is the most expensive in history. Pro-Israel groups have played a huge part. The pro-Israel lobby. This is written by Lisa Kaczynski. The pro-Israel lobby has pumped millions into Democratic primaries this year and is facing the next test of its political power on the right in Ruby Red, Kentucky. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee and other pro-Israel interest groups have uncorked over $9 million in a bid to unseat Republican Representative Thomas Massey on Tuesday in a competitive primary that has shattered spending records. Prominent pro-Israel GOP donors have funneled millions more into Super PAC, stood up by President Trump's political operation that has spent nearly $7 million on the race. Overall ad spending has topped $32 million, making it the most expensive House primary on record per tracking firm Ad Impact. So
how much was it again?
32 on TV, but I think I've heard just 35 million so far is what we're talking about.
Chump change.
Yeah. On a Republican primary. Now, I've said repeatedly on this program, hey, look, the Republican Party is a coalition, and the Republican Party is the only real place where you have a debate about ideas. South Carolina President Pro Temp over there was like, we're better when the Democrat Party is robust and vibrant. It's like, no, their ideas are terrible. If you want to have a debate, you have to have the debate within the Republican Party. It is. Mm-hmm. Now, just based on the spending and the numbers, those out there that get upset when you point out the Israel lobby and their effect on politics and try to pretend like it doesn't have an effect, obviously we're seeing this in real time. Yeah. It clearly does have an effect. Sure. Right? Thomas Massey, not for war. The Israel lobby is going to be like, well, we want the war. We want this conflict of offense or defense or whatever. He voted also not to give Israel money, and he's spoken out against them. And so yeah, it makes perfect sense that they're now going to target him. That is exactly what's happening here. Okay, there's no question about that. Then there's the other votes. So Massey voted against the big beautiful bill. Mm-hmm. He's voted against other things as well, and this is one of the reasons why J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, said this the other day. Take a listen.
I think the problem with Thomas, and I've told him this in private, and now I guess I'll say it in public, is it's one thing to disagree with the party on a particular issue. It's one thing to have your independent stand on a number of questions. And by the way, some of the stuff where Thomas Massey has been independent against the Republican Party, I've agreed with him with. Thomas and I worked together during 2023 where I was trying to stop the limitless flow of American money to Ukraine, and Thomas was one of the people I was working closest with it. But that's one thing. Being independent, having your own opinions is one thing. Voting against the party on every single issue, you're eventually going to make too many enemies.
Amen.
And that is the problem that Thomas has had. It's not one issue. It's not 3 or 4 issues. It's that every time that we've needed Thomas for a vote, he has been completely unwilling to provide it. That is why the President of the United States has trained his ire on Thomas Massey. It's because we can never count on him for some of the most difficult votes. I wish that weren't the case. I say that as somebody who's known Thomas well before I got into politics, but politics is politics, and when you always vote against the party, you can't expect the party to actually back you.
So, I'll get your reaction to that first.
Okay, so that is, almost word for word what I was saying in our text message group earlier. That if you want to disagree with the president on some issues, have your thing. Thomas Massey was one of the huge opponents of Donald Trump's stance on the Epstein files. I completely agreed with Thomas Massey, and I believe that in private, Trump would probably admit that they fumbled that it wasn't the greatest moment of their presidency. But I was just saying that it's one thing to have stance on these political stances that you're saying. Chip Roy is another who I agree with Chip Roy on a lot of stuff. But man, you're voting against this budget every single time. And what you're doing is you're delaying all of this stuff because it's going to go through. Or because you're a no vote, the Republicans have to then give a concession to the Democrats so that they can get one of their votes, which means that it's weakening this bill for what it could have been, and it could have been stronger. But since you're just this no vote over here that Donald Trump has to make a call every time, and you may or may not could be persuaded because you want something out of it, but if you can't be persuaded, then you're a no vote. We got to go to the Dems, make a concession over there, and get them to come on board. The Democrats don't do that. They don't do it. And what I was saying in our group text between me and you and Eric today is that the Democrats, the reason that they're so destructive when they are in power is because they fall in line. They fall in line behind their leader, and it was Pelosi for years. Schumer, still there, but we'll see how much longer he's going to go. And then whether it be for Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, whoever it is, but even when they're not in power in the presidency, they fall in line, meaning like when they had the House, you couldn't get anything done. USMCA sat there for how long? It sat there for probably almost 2 years before Pelosi was willing to give that political victory to Donald Trump and sign this, got rid of NAFTA, the terrible trade deal that was known as NAFTA. So anyway, I'm going off on all these tangents, but I'll just say the Democrats fall in line. And if we want to defeat them, if we want to keep them out of power because we see how destructive they are, the Thomas Masseys of the world that are no votes on all of this crap, as principled as you might be, and as much as I might agree with you on certain things, you got to go, in my opinion.
So President Trump saying this in a flurry of tweets yesterday, calling Thomas Massie a bad congressman. Bad Congressman Thomas Massie voted against tax cuts, the border wall, our military, and law enforcement. He says actually he voted against almost everything that is good. The worst Republican congressman in history.
That's strong.
Anthony Weiner would like a word.
Yes.
The worst Republican congressman.
He was a Republican when he was serving?
I'm sorry. He was a Democrat.
I'm
sorry. I was just conflating congressmen.
I don't think we would have a guy named Weiner in our party.
John Boehner, based on the fact of how they spelled his last name and the whole country gave him the benefit of the doubt and how you would really pronounce that name.
Well, what about that fruitcake George Santos that was,
Yeah, George Santos.
The guy, he was kicked out, and then he went to prison.
Right, got pardoned by President Trump.
Yeah.
He's made the podcast circuit. He's an interesting guy to listen to, I'll say that.
He is, and I mean, honestly, he shouldn't have been in prison for what he did,
and I know President Trump does the hyperbole thing all the time. He does it when he's negotiating deals with Iran. Seriously, has anyone ever considered that man's life, that John Boehner might have been a little bit more of a humble person and a better Speaker of the House if he had to go through his life with his last name being pronounced the way it's actually spelled? Has anyone ever considered that? Okay, this man
humbles a man, doesn't it?
This man was not. Matter of fact, I mean, the reason he got kicked out of being Speaker is because of his alcohol problem.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know.
Maybe the correct pronunciation would have made his alcohol problem even worse.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, anyway.
What's the same thing. They were trying to name, I guess they were trying to name this new building after an old sheriff. Here recently. This was a news story that just went around.
Yes.
And it was like Dick Harder or something like that. I can't remember what. But
okay, let's keep going here. I do want to find that
story.
Sorry,
I take us off
because
on
a vote. It was a vote that they put it to the people for a vote, and the guy, it's his real actual name, and he's apparently a historical figure, and everybody wants to name the building after him, and it's way worse than John Boehner. Anyway, so. Bad Congressman Tom Massie says border wall, votes against tax cuts, border wall, law enforcement. Actually, he voted against everything good. The worst Republican congressman in history. Kentucky, vote the bum out on Tuesday. We can't live with this troublemaker for another 2 years. He is a true negative force, President Donald Trump. Okay, so did Thomas Massie, here's the question. Because did Thomas Massie vote against tax cuts, the border wall, military, and law enforcement individually? Standalone bills? No, he did not. He voted against the big, beautiful bill that had all of these things in it, right?
Sure.
Okay.
But it sounds better to say it like this.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not taking that away from Trump. He's going to do what he's going to do. This is politics, baby.
It's
this
true.
is a blood sport.
What he's writing here is
Correct.
true.
Right, because it was
one
all
of
in
the biggest
there.
things was to solidify those Trump tax cuts from Trump 1.0.
The idea of somebody being against the big, beautiful bill, though, is not necessarily unprecedented. It's one of the reasons that it's what precipitated the Elon Musk Donald Trump divorce. So I'm just trying to put this into context.
Sure.
It's not like everybody loved the big, beautiful bill. Now, I, like many of you out there, and maybe many of you that still are, I used to be a big debt deficit hawk. Back when I started the show,
You can lose some sleep watching that debt clock.
You can.
Website.
Back in 2009. And so this is where I get into the I love Thomas Massie and what he did with the Epstein files. I love standing up to that. We're going to get into the perception of why Thomas Massie is actually being taken out, or the attempt to be taken out, and the perception versus young people versus old people here in just a minute, because I do think it's a really unfortunate error, in a lot of ways an unforced error with what may end up about to happen. We'll see, though. I don't know. But Thomas Massie, the big beautiful bill, Elon Musk. Remind me where I was going with this.
Well, I ultimately
I think I got 2 steps ahead of myself,
yeah.
and
ultimately the point that you're trying to make here is that Thomas Massie voted against this one bill, and Donald Trump is using that. But I do think that Thomas.
Yeah. So I was on the debt.
Yeah.
So I'm not one of these guys that's like, any politician is pure as the driven snow, because you look at this idea of the debt. Okay, you could take any bill at this point and say, I'm voting no because of the debt. Mm-hmm. I used to be a big debt guy. 2009 when I started the radio program, or I was given the opportunity to have a radio program by a very generous person, I was distressed that it was $12 trillion. $12 trillion.
We would take that in a heartbeat right now.
Now, in theory, on principle, it is wrong. If you look at what's available to the public, 12 trillion is wrong, 36 trillion, 40 trillion now. But practically speaking, there's a strong argument to suggest that we actually don't have all the cards, we don't have all the facts, and a really, really small group of people are the ones that actually are controlling your interest rates the way we do our thermostats at home. If you can spend $12 trillion, if you know really how much that is, and nothing bad happens, and now it is at this point a fool's errand. I'm just being real with you, because the whole debt thing was used in a big it was a big talking point in 2010 and 2011, and guess what? They got in there and they found out it doesn't really matter. Now, we could say they got in there and they sold out their constituents. I think that's true, but there's more information that the public is not operating on when it comes to the debt. Because the debt is fake. Like that's the real story here, is the whole system is fake. And maybe we shouldn't be surprised that it's fake when we have pagan symbols on our money, right?
Sure.
So I say all that to say you got to operate with a level of realism. So this idea, this principled debt thing, and I'm not saying that Thomas Massie doesn't really believe it, but the whole thing is it is really, to me, just like I'm going to vote against the big beautiful bill because it's going to add to the debt, when in reality, like, this is the status quo that we have right now. We currently operate in a world where, and this would be unpopular with some people, we currently operate in a world where you can spend $40 trillion because you're the world's reserve currency and you have a military, and guess what? You can just do that. That doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't mean it's ideal. But when it comes to especially back in the day when the big beautiful bill was being debated, this civilizational clash right now of having to get Border Patrol funded, get ICE funded, and yeah, it was another big pork project. Do I agree with Elon Musk that they were chicken and the big beautiful bill should have cut all of the waste instead of funding? Literally, he exposed the waste and they came and funded it. Yeah, I think that's terrible. I think it's awful. And you could make the argument that Thomas Massie was standing up to the people. You could make the argument Thomas Massie is trying to make the Republican Party do what it says it's going to do. And I get that. I'm sympathetic to that. At the same time, if it's just focused on the debt and the debt alone, at this point, again, the debt is negligible at this point, and it's either gonna it's so large that the only way the debt will ever be a factor is if somebody plans for it to be a factor and breaks open the glass to create the crisis. It's not going to happen from one vote on the big beautiful bill. I guess that's my point.
Okay. Well, I will say this. I do agree with some of the people in the comments that since Thomas Massie, he didn't vote to impeach Trump, and we know that he does not care for Trump. He didn't vote either time.
Yep.
To do that, like Cassidy, who lost. That's got to be embarrassing.
We're going to get to Cassidy. But
Good grief! But anyway, so I don't think Thomas Massie is an enemy, and I don't
either. I don't count him as an enemy at all. I would rather have the Epstein files. Even though we don't have them all, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. But I will also say that I don't think that Donald Trump truly looks at Thomas Massie as an enemy, because Thomas Massie, although he has spoken out in some ways against Trump, he doesn't present. He's a bump in the road every time he's trying to get something done, but he's not a roadblock. But what he does do, going back to what I said, is that he forces Republicans to give concessions to Democrats. When I just say, if you're principled on this, you don't like this debt, you don't like what we're doing here, and we're voting and we're putting in more debt, we're not slashing. Okay, get some concessions that you can live with for now. Get some concessions that you could live with for now, because what you're forcing your Republican colleagues to do is to go ask Hakeem Jeffries for some concessions. Like, hey, if we can get some of your people over here to vote for this, what can we throw to the Democratic caucus here? I'm not down with that. I'd rather give concessions to other Republican members of House. That's what the American people elected them to do. They put the Republicans in charge of all three. So I say all that to say, do you think we can pay down our debt?
No. I mean, you can
Well, what it
potentially grow your way out of it, there's ways to make this debt go away. But planned financial crisis is the easiest way to
where's our debt? Where's our debt? Our debt is in bonds that the government creates and sells, that gives us income, that gives us this money. And so these investors, most of which are actually in the United States. Everybody says China owns our debt. They don't. There's some is owned by that, because you can buy those bonds, can be purchased by. But anyway, what I would do if they can just spend all of their efforts with Doge and getting rid of all of this fraud. Nick Shirley has started this train moving down the tracks. We've got to keep it going. We can't let a fallout happen like what happened with Elon Musk. Let this train keep going down the tracks, and let's root out this fraud. Dr. Oz, Mehmet Oz, came on and said, hey, we shut down 800 hospice companies in California, and we didn't get one single solitary call saying, hey, where's my money? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, where's my reimbursement for my money? Because they know the jig is up. So you got to get rid of the fraud. Okay? I fully believe that we have a close to $1 trillion or more of fraud every year. I think of our $7 trillion of spending, at least $1 trillion of it is fraud, and I might be undershooting it, because I've talked about there's fraud on every single solitary level when you are billing, and it is all Medicaid and Medicare fraud, where you are billing the government for services that you are not doing. This service. You're billing the government for a $300 Tylenol.
Yeah,
there is so much fraud that happens there. So get rid of the fraud and increase our GDP. If you can do those two things, then once you can. I mean, Bill Clinton was the last one to balance the budget. Say what you want about him, but he balanced the budget where we were taking in more money than what we were spending. if you got to that point again, then you buy those bonds and eliminate them. You buy them back. You'll have to pay a premium for them because the investors may not want to sell them. But you buy those bonds back, and then you eliminate those bonds. And then you can start to work to put provisions in place where if the government, the Warren Buffett method, if the government doesn't balance the budget, that they immediately lose their paychecks. Yeah. You can't go through unless it's a balanced budget. So I've gone down a long rabbit hole there, but
in theory that would be true, and it is true, assuming the government should run the way we have to run our own households. But in my opinion, let me just simplify it for you. I think Washington, D.C. runs on blackmail. I think it's used as a currency, and I think you get high enough up, whether it's D.C. or Hollywood or any of these things, they actually love having blackmail on one another because it's a security blanket. Both people know that the other one could destroy them or make their life much difficult, but because of mutually assured destruction, their power is ensured. I think the debt, $40 trillion in debt is just a massive blackmail, or the equivalent of an intentional crisis that everybody knows at any moment. It's in a glass case, and if the right person wants to, we break open glass and we basically hold the whole country ransom.
Yeah.
And so in that instance, the debt really does matter, but the way out of it is not. The way out of it is to end the Federal Reserve. The way out of it is to audit Fort Knox. The way out of it is to put people in jail who've done this to the American people, who've put us in this position. This is just my opinion. So, outside, what you said is true. I'm just saying outside of the traditional "let's grow our way out of it" idea, which assumes that we're living in a system based on sound economic fundamentals.
Well, grow and cut. Yeah, grow and cut. Yeah. That's a key.
But here is more on the Thomas Massie thing. Here is Congresswoman Lauren Boebert stumping
We're calling her Hobart.
Stumping for Thomas Massie.
A Republican congressman who said one thing at home and got to Washington, D.C. and did something completely different. He did exactly what he was told to do. He handed his voting card over to the Speaker of the House and whatever he could to be in the good graces of all of the slime in D.C., he did. He would come back home and campaign one way, and then he would go back and govern the complete opposite.
Isn't that the story?
And so I decided to run against him. I had no money, and I traveled 29 counties in Colorado, and I beat him by 10 points, the first time in 48 years, and he haven't lost the primary in Colorado.
All right, so that's her telling her story, how she got to Congress. But unfortunately, folks, Lauren Boebert, we're supposed to hate her now. She's the latest one who's been anathematized.
Listen, I understand why Trump's frustrated with her, because he wants Massie gone, and she is speaking out for Massie. She's not the only one. Which is also concerning, as I was talking about in our group text here. There's a few other endorsements of Thomas Massie that are a little concerning, if you ask me. I haven't read all of these, but they allegedly, the New York Times, Ilhan Omar.
Now, I do have look, I don't have any argument with that. You can't, the New York Times coming out with a puff piece, on... It's actually not that. I mean, it is concerning. It's a red flag. But at the same time, you have to understand the New York Post wants anything to happen that's going to weaken President Trump.
New York Times.
The New York Times.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Anything. So they're going to be for Thomas. It's like, why are they for Thomas Massie? It's like, well, they're for Thomas Massie because if Thomas Massie wins, it means that that Massie's constituents love Massie more than they love Trump. That's what it means, and that's why the New York Times wants that to happen.
I like Lauren Boebert. She's not really done anything for me to dislike her. And I'm also a strong-willed person where I'm not going to hate somebody just because I was told to hate them. In that same reason, and our chat mentioned this as well, that Lindsey Graham, Donald Trump for some reason supports him. Lindsey Graham's a moron. He is a warmonger. And I can't stand it. I can't stand the fact that Donald Trump has not just cast that fool aside. But, that's That's one thing. Lauren Boebert is a true conservative. She is also, in my opinion, well, I don't know that she's a true conservative. She's definitely a true Republican, and she's certainly a MAGA person. I believe that she backs Trump. She just doesn't follow him on every single solitary thing that he does.
Well, and this is the deal. This is what's frustrating.
But she doesn't vote against him, and that's what I like.
Well, I mean, she was taken into a back room, according to her, telling her to take her name off the Epstein files. She talked about that, and she said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I want the Epstein files released." There was allegedly pressure to not do that.
Good for her.
And this is going to get us into the other side of things. But this was Lauren Boebert's tightrope that she attempted to walk before going to Kentucky to campaign for her friend Thomas Massie. She says, "Below is my friend Thomas Massie. He loves America and is fighting to save it. Also below is my friend and president, Donald Trump. He put his life on the line to save this great country. I support both of these men. I've worked with both to preserve freedom and liberty, and if that makes you angry, bless your heart." So, what a great tweet, but it wasn't enough. President Trump saying essentially, no, that isn't good enough. And he's now asking for primary challengers for Lauren Boebert. Quote, is anyone interested in running against weak-minded Lauren Boebert in Colorado's 4th Congressional District? You remember Lauren moved to the district when it became obvious that she couldn't win in her original congressional district, the 3rd. A carpetbagger, indeed. Boebert is campaigning for the worst Republican congressman in the history of our country, Thomas Massie of the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, and anybody who can be that dumb deserves a good primary fight. Even though I long ago endorsed Boebert, if the right person came along, it would be my honor to withdraw that endorsement and endorse a good and proper alternative. Just let me know or announce your candidacy, and I will be there for you, President Donald J. Trump. Now, real quick, the filing is over. There is no official primary person that could do that this cycle, unless, of course, you get like a write-in candidate, and that would be a long shot, even with money. Yeah. But so this is the kind of stuff that makes you just roll your eyes.
It's just this is what. Go ahead, Paul.
No, you go ahead.
This is what they want us to do. This is what Donald Trump wants us to do. I voted for that man 3 times. I love him as our president. Okay. That's I have to.
You qualify.
I have to qualify it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not this. I will follow Donald Trump.
Yep.
If Donald Trump says it, it is the right thing. If Lauren Boebert is bad, I now think she's bad because Trump said it. Stop. I don't agree that Thomas Massie should be obstructing Donald Trump's movement here, but quit this crap, man. I don't like this. At the risk of alienating some of our listening audience who are just Trump loyalists, I don't like crap like this, Paul. And that doesn't mean that I'm regretting my vote. For the love of God, what was the alternative?
Of course not.
You know, any Republican running against Donald Trump, I would have voted for Donald Trump over that Republican. 100%. I believe in Donald Trump. I just wish he wouldn't do crap like this.
Yeah. No, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying, and I really respect your reaction to this too, because I know you are more on the, hey, yeah, if Massie goes, then he goes, because he shouldn't have, he shouldn't have obstructed President Trump the way, but it's not enough. Is what I guess my point is he has made friends, and it's like, so where does it end exactly? Where does it end? And it's stuff like this that makes you think, oh, okay, it ends on an island with one person pointing the finger at everybody else. Yeah. And that's where it eventually leads if this just kind of continues. And so I've seen this before. I've seen this play out before. I've seen it at a micro level in Arkansas back when Governor Asa Hutchinson was was governor of Arkansas.
wanted to be president.
Tucker Carlson ended Asa Hutchinson's hopes for being president.
Tucker Carlson deserves a lot of credit for those primaries, and this is 2023 essentially.
Oh man, ended Mike Pence and Asa with just a couple of questions. It was unbelievable. And as somebody who had to suffer under the Asa Hutchinson administration, I didn't suffer under the Asa Hutchinson administration, but I opposed him at almost every turn vigorously on the radio for, for years. And anyway, but the bottom line is this: I saw it firsthand, where you have people that are speaking out against the governor in my case, and he goes after him. So it's just not a new thing. I'm not
sure.
I wish it wouldn't happen. Like in terms of we're going to spend $35 million because what? Because Thomas Massie voted against the bill that got passed anyway. It'd be one thing if he was the deciding vote and the big beautiful bill didn't get passed, or he was the deciding vote and Israel didn't get their money and Iran took over Israel or something.
A la John McCain for the destruction of Obamacare.
But that didn't even happen. So you're spending $35 million. You're further dividing the base, because there are people looking at this. Let's just talk about young people for a second. Because, he also is criticizing Rand Paul, the senator from Kentucky who's stumping for Thomas Massie.
Yeah, he's been going after Rand for years, though. Yeah. That's nothing new.
He doesn't go after Rand is I guess maybe because he's a senator and he needs him, maybe. I don't know. He doesn't go after as strong as Rand.
Yeah. Well, I don't Rand doesn't really go after Donald Trump very much. He just knows that Rand is a no vote on every budget that comes through, and he's just, they're hoping that Collins and what's her face, Susan Collins and Murkowski. Thank you. He just hopes that they are yes votes, so that he can counteract it.
But here is the interactive polls. This is Iowa Polls 2022 over on X. They're doing some polling here, and I've seen several polls that are just like this. Okay, age 17 to 25 is polling. This was as of. The, let's see, that's the 13th. That's the 13th. I guess May 13th. So a couple of days ago, 5 days ago. 17 to 25, Massie is winning plus by 25. 26 to 35, Massie by 56. We have age 36 to 45, Massie by 38. 46 to 55, Massie plus 17. Age 56 to 65, Gallerin, 18. 66, 75, Gallerin, 35. 76 plus, Gallerin, 33.
Well, I've got a couple of questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Number one, that is a huge disparity.
Huge discrepancy.
So, discrepancy, thank you. So it's a huge discrepancy there. So I want to dive into that a little bit more. But I want to know what the average voting age is there in the state of Kentucky. Is it an older electorate?
I think they've got, this is why everybody is saying right now, it's really kind of anybody's game, and it all depends on turnout. It all depends on turnout tomorrow to figure out who's going to win this thing. Here's the Ed Gallerin at 48%. Thomas Massie at 43%.
The not
7.6, not sure. But see, here's the deal. If a bunch of young people show up, if more young people show up to vote than old people, Thomas Massie's going to keep his seat.
Yes, sounds like it.
That's what that means. And so we'll see what happens. I think, we haven't even talked about the October surprise, which would really be a May surprise. Last week, Massie gets hit with allegations of having a girlfriend and all this other stuff. And when I saw that, my instinct is, whether credible or not credible, it is something you do when you're not sure that you're going to win. That comes out when you're like, when you're going to try to Christine Blasey Ford Thomas Massie, the election is razor thin.
I could see that.
So
I also am curious about why the polling starts at age 17 to 25.
Oh, when the voting age is 18.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
It's interesting to me because I don't know why you would be calling.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. That's strange.
Unless this poll was done, a couple months ago, and it
says it was conducted the 11th through the 12th.
So unless you're 17, turning 18 in just a couple of days, I don't even know what Kentucky's registration deadline is. It may be past that. So that's strange to me. But regardless, that's a huge discrepancy in the numbers, and I don't know that I've ever really seen that. This is what they're saying, the overall.
This is the latest one this was conducted the 16th through the 17th.
Wowzer.
So you've got a 7-point spread, 5% not sure, according to interactive polls. Does this one have a breakdown? I don't see this one having a breakdown of age. But yeah, they do all kinds of polls on this site. But anyway, it's pretty fascinating what's going on. So here's my deal with this, because we had this conversation in the chat where it's like, okay, yeah, big beautiful bill, or what J.D. Vance said, he's just not reliable on any of this stuff. They just kind of want Republicans to be reliable on. Always stands up for this or that. If you're a young person, though, and just letting you know, if you're a young person, everybody thinks that Thomas Massie is being targeted for the Epstein files. And that's the perception. Now, whether you want to believe that or not, I'm just telling you, the reason you want to say, why do the young people not want Ed Gallerin? Why don't they want him? Well, it's for a lot of reasons. It's for this Politico report. I mean, say what you want to. Pro-Israel groups. There's a lot of Americans that are not happy with it. R.N. McIntyre, feel how you want about Massie. The man has literally showed up angry in my mentions, but it's pretty unsettling that a foreign country is openly working to unseat a congressman in a district where he's very popular. The young people, you may not care about that, but younger Americans increasingly do, and it's not necessarily. It's not necessarily. In some cases, it is directly just because it's Israel. But in a lot of other cases, it's just it's foreign involvement at all. Okay, and then you could bring up the Epstein files, and the Epstein files, people are like, yeah, like that was really weird. Wasn't that weird this time last year when we were told that the Epstein files there's nothing to see here and it's a hoax? People have not gotten over that, and we warned about this on the show. We warned about this, and we were warning about it in context of the coming midterms. Yeah. Before we knew that there was going to be this giant primary between Massie and Gallerin. And so I'll be interested to see what happens.
Paul, could it be as simple as this? Okay, I do agree with you that the young people believe that there was just this massive cover-up with
whether
the
it's
Epstein.
True or not.
Whether
that's
it's
what
true
they
or
believe.
not. That's what they believe. And I think we can all agree that it was a bungled, whatever. My words are not coming to me today.
Pam Bondi.
Pam Bondi just screwed the pooch on this. She came out. She promised this one thing. We're not going to go rehash all of this stuff. But then the internal memo got released and said, we're not releasing anything else. We're going to say nothing else on this. And then, of course, the pressure really grew, and they had to, eat some crow and go ahead and release all this stuff. But anyway. And Thomas Massie was a huge proponent of getting that released, and it was just his rallying cry. And so that I can understand the young people sort of agreeing with all of that. But I think, and I teased this at the top of the show, I think it could be a simpler answer. And it may be a little bit of both. It could be three things, with the Israel influence and the young people conspiracies and all of this stuff or whatever. But Ed Gallerin coming in here and having such a huge, like all of these incumbents losing, where we saw this in Indiana, we saw this in Louisiana over the weekend. Hopefully we're going to see this in the state of Texas with John Cornyn getting unseated by Ken Paxton there. And if you're not following that race, you really need to take a look at that one. That one's huge, right? So because of Cornyn, they say Cornyn and Cassidy were his two main allies.
You got to throw
John Thunes.
You got to throw in Mark Lynch beating Lindsey Graham. We got to hope that.
Gosh, please, baby Jesus, give us that
one.
But
see, on that though, and I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but let me find this. Like this is where it's like try to make sense of anything going on right now. Where it's like, yes, Bill Cassidy, we love. Yes, we want Ken Paxton over Cornyn. Yes, but then you get this. You get a post like this.
The Conservative Review.
A plus. John Thune gets an F. Lindsey Graham gets an F. And could we get 50% of the anger that's at Thomas Massie? Could we get 50% of that directed at John Thune? But we don't. And I posted earlier. Well, why don't we? Well, because the donors are very happy with John Thune. They like John Thune.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they like Lindsey Graham saying, let's go to war. Everybody go to war.
Yes, they do.
And I don't know how much influence. He's been screaming at Iran for a long time. I don't know how much influence Lindsey Graham had in that. I would assume none, because I think that Donald Trump's really good at sizing people up. He realizes that guy's a fumbling idiot. But anyway, my whole point that I was trying to make there is that if you think MAGA is dead, if you think MAGA is dying, you are naive, because Donald Trump is sort of kicking ass and taking names, as they say, because it seems as if anybody who has gone after Trump and disagreed with Trump is losing their seat right now. Cassidy 100% deserved it. He was the fact that a Republican voted to impeach Donald Trump after January 6th. And the BBC had to, this lawsuit here that because they had edited a clip to make it look like Donald Trump had said something that he didn't say. Well, all the Democrats came out and said that's what he said. Not because of BBC, because they just truly believed all of that stuff. All the crap that goes through their head. Donald Trump is evil. Donald Trump is Hitler. He's killing babies. All of this crap that they believe in their head, to me, gets extra validity when a Republican votes with them on stupid stuff like Donald Trump invoked an insurrection. He invoked an insurrection. All of these people, January 6th, they were arrested. Their lives were turned upside down. Donald Trump and none of those people, neither any of those people or Donald Trump, let me say it a little bit more correctly there, none of those people or Donald Trump were charged with insurrection. So don't sit here and say that the man incited an insurrection. I think the FBI agents trolling through the crowd had much more to do with all of that stuff. But Cassidy voting with the Democrats to impeach Donald Trump, he immediately lost his seat. It was a poison that took 6 years.
Yep.
Right, because he had just been reelected.
Right. So, I mean, you're exactly right. It took 6 years. And so here's an example where we're like, hey, this is great. Who is not happy that Bill Cassidy, a big pharma stooge, also is out of there? Here's Donald Trump. Bill Cassidy, after falsely using his relationship with me during his political career and winning elections because of it, voted to impeach me on preposterous charges that were fake then and now are criminally insane. Let's talk about Tulsi Gabbard exposing the fact, and Eric's CIA Ramella.
Yep.
His disloyalty to the man who got him elected is now part of legend, and it's nice to see that his political career is over. I'd like to thank the great people of the state of Louisiana, and the big victory will only make me work harder for your success and all that comes with it. I love you all. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump.
We're going to get something very similar to that, although I think that's a valid post. 100% right there. What's he going to say if Thomas Massie loses tomorrow?
Good riddance. You were an idiot. If you'd have been smarter, if you'd have worked a little harder.
I just don't like. I don't like that. But I do. I let me just say this. I'm good with Thomas Massie losing. However, that conservative review thing is a little concerning to me as a Republican and a conservative. I think, okay, well. What am I missing here? What am I missing?
And that's we've known for a long time. I mean, I learned this the hard way in the primary in 2016 when I was on radio. American people don't really care as much about principle in a talk radio format as I thought they did. They just want their problems fixed. They want their problems solved, right? And so they're going to respond to the person they think is going to actually get that done. Okay? And President Trump is essentially a 1960s Democrat. If you go back to the 1960s and you look at that's kind of where President Trump falls in.
Sure.
And this is not surprising. Everybody knows this. Everybody has known this for a while. That's just the way it is. And so this is an example of, and again, no politician, Thomas Massie included, is pure as the driven snow, okay? They don't exist out there, right? Even when you make a principled stand, if it truly is principled, there's also other reasons that that don't necessarily have to do with that principle as to why you make different votes. So you never truly know. This is the system that we're given, though. So I don't know what he's going to say. The real question is what happens if Thomas Massie actually somehow wins?
He's going to be more emboldened, in my opinion, to stand up for what he believes in because it was on the ballot. It was literally
Thomas Massie will be
correct.
Oh, of course, yeah.
His stances were on the ballot, and his constituents voted for him. If that's the way that it plays out tomorrow, even if it's a close vote, doesn't matter.
It will forever. If Thomas Massie does win tomorrow, whether you think he should go or not because he voted against the big beautiful bill or voted against a bunch of other stuff the president wants, we could all agree though, right? If Thomas Massie were to somehow win, it would forever shatter any sort of allegation that MAGA is a cult. Because it would be literally, be the people saying like, no, I'm not, like you said, I'm not just going to be a zombie. I'm going to think independently, vote for Trump nationally, but think things differently on the local level.
Shatter it from whose perspective? Because we don't believe that we're a cult anyway.
This is true. It wouldn't shatter it from the left's always going to believe it, but it would be some good ammunition. Sure. Like, hey, actually, no.
Look at us. We will vote against.
Yeah, Bill Cassidy though. Real quick before we're going to take a break and reset, but Bill Cassidy just got completely shut out of his Senate seat, not only getting pummeled by Trump-backed Julia Letlow, but also losing to John Fleming, who got second. So he didn't even come in second. So it heads to a runoff, and guess who's upset about it?
Oh, Mitt.
Pierre Delecto, the Senate. The Senate to now lose an exceptionally brilliant and creative mind. An MD who chairs health care.
He's a
Big
doctor.
Pharma. And a person of character. Bill Cassidy's departure is a loss for this country. There you go.
Say less, Mitt Romney, and not in a good way. Just shut up.
Just shut
Nobody gives a damn what you think, Mitt.
That's exactly right. All right,
I voted for you in 2012 because I was worried about Obamacare. But, yeah, I wished, like anything, that we would have had a different option in 2012.
Yeah, you and me both. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back here in just a moment. This is the Paul Harrell Program, broadcasting on LFA TV, Paul Harrell Program, YouTube, as well as Facebook and X.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
The other things that we're seeing, more and more use for is even vascular issues. So one of the mechanisms that red light, near-infrared light, or Red 5 works is stimulation of the mitochondria and stimulation of nitric oxide production. So when nitric oxide is released in cells, it vasodilates cells. It reduces inflammation. It moves blood. It brings blood flow to areas. So folks that have issues with ulcers or burns or wounds, it can help stimulate increased blood supply, and you need blood to heal. So that can open up different avenues for peripheral artery disease, for neuropathic pain syndromes. And so that's one of the other areas for nerve injury or nerve pain that we can leverage this type of medicine.
Behind every precious life, there was a choice. Behind every family moment, behind every special memory, there was a choice. A life of joy. A life that is beautifully and wonderfully made. At 7 Weeks Coffee, we are funding the pro-life movement, one cup at a time. Will you let your coffee serve a greater purpose?
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our Star Wars Ewok. His name is Scout, and we have Scout for about 11 years now, and we started noticing about 3 years ago, he started slowing down. He was unable to jump on the bed. He was kind of a little bit grumpier, and when my daughters, Macy and Mariah, would take him on walks, he would walk for about 30 yards, and then he'd lay down, and they'd carry him the rest of the way. So I heard about Pet Club 24/7 and about the products from a gentleman that I really trust and share a friendship with. And he mentioned to me that they have products that are going to help him with his arthritis, help him build his immune system. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's try them out. And I kid you guys not, within about 2 to 3 days, we started noticing a little difference. And then we took Scout on a walk probably about a week after we started using the products, the mush puppies, and he would walk the entire way. He would walk at least a mile, and it's just been completely amazing. He's a new dog. He's 11 years old, which is around 80 years in dog years, and he's just happy. He's more energetic. He's not the grumpy old man he used to be, and we're just so thankful. And it was perfect timing because we lost our boxer Yankee about 1.5 years ago, and it was really hard on us. So I'm so thankful for Pet Club 24/7 for the products that they offer. Imagine if you could have your best friend around one more day or one more week or even one more year. I'm so blessed and thankful that we were able to find this company and find these products for Scout. So thank you guys. Give it a shot. We appreciate you. God bless everyone.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Welcome back, folks. Broadcasting from Arkansas. My good friend, co-host Rob Spencer is with us. We got a few more stories that we want to get to today. First off, this is kind of a follow-up story to what we talked about the other day on Friday when I was here. And so I'm glad that James Comey was dumb enough to say it again. He said it on CNN. Hey, I talk to people in the FBI all the time, and they're so distressed. The ones that have been fired, the ones that are still there, the ones that have got family members that are sick and dying, and they're just so distressed that the FBI is in turmoil. And basically he's confessing that, hey, look, there is a deep state. I'm talking to him and just telling him to hold on. Yeah. Like I'm talking like Wilson Phillips, hold on for one more day. You ever hear that song?
Are you asking me if I've ever heard Wilson Phillips hold on?
Yeah. You've ever heard
Someday somebody's going to make it want to. So everybody's heard that song.
This is James Comey.
My 15-year-old son has heard that song, and it came out 15 years before he was
James Comey's
born.
Phone call with the FBI is like, I know there's pain. Holy crap. Disgraced and indicted, former FBI Director James Comey just issued a deep state call to action. Hang on in the shadows until a Democrat comes to office.
Not looked at from the top level. The people running it, if you're bragging about forcing out career prosecutors and agents because the president doesn't like a lawful investigation they conducted, something is seriously broken at the top. But I have great confidence in the people down below who are just trying to hang on. And I'm urging them, hang on 2.5 years, and then we can rebuild these institutions. But we need good people in those roles. America does.
So on Friday, Rob, it dawned on me live on the air. Not only is this guy a traitor, not only whatever, but I kept arguing, this point that, hey, this is a former spook, a former, arguably the most powerful, intelligence officer in the country. He's got people that are loyal to them. And I said, in today's world, your intel heads are your generals. And so we need to think about this as not as a FBI director, but as a general who literally has soldiers at his disposal that are listening to him. That's why the 8647 thing is a crime, in my opinion, because it's borderline, you are sending coded messages to your loyalists who are close to the president to kill him.
That's the only thing that I dislike about the indictment of James Comey is just that it has re-brought this fool back into the spotlight, brought him back into the mainstream. And he's not taking his indictment seriously.
No,
he's not. The reason that he's not taking it seriously is because what is the first thing every attorney tells you to do if you're ever accused of a crime and indicted or something? Shut up. Don't go on national television. Sure as hell don't go on Meet the Press, which is it used to be a pretty well-watched program, knowing that you're going to have sound bites that are just going to be, clipped up and put all over the internet like that. There's no way he's taking his indictment seriously, or he would be laying low right now. And I want something to happen to him. I wish they could have gotten him for, something else, but unfortunately the deep state people that he's talking about, these career prosecutors and investigators and all of this stuff in the Justice Department and the FBI and all of that. These career folks are the problem, in my opinion, in many cases, and they are, he's speaking out to them. Like, does he fancy himself as being the director of the FBI again? I think so.
Oh yeah,
I think
in his mind he always is, and that's my point. Is that the idea that he still doesn't have power and authority, and there's people that are loyal to. I mean, if you've got troops in another, that are loyal to you, I mean, then you are a threat. James Comey is a threat. And this man should be indicted on 8647, but he should have been indicted on framing Trump for treason and leaking to the media and everything else, and maybe he still will be.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the longer that James Comey is free, the more it confirms that you and I are actually slaves.
Well, I agree with that, and I also agree with there needs to be more instances like this of all the people who went after Donald Trump between January 6th or whenever, I guess, January 20th. Well, no, it really happened before that. They were trying to get him before. So from January 6, 2021, all the way up until he was reelected, even so much as they tried to kill him in the few months leading up to his, reelection. All of those people that went after him, the Fonnie Willises of the world, the what's that fat ass up there in New York? He's the
Oh yeah, what is her name?
No, the guy. Well, there's that Letitia James.
Oh, Alvin Bragg.
Yeah, they're all fat up there apparently.
Yeah, Alvin Bragg.
Alvin Bragg. He's a loser. And so anyway, all these people, I lumped them in with the James Comeys of the world, and they all need to suffer consequences for their actions, and unfortunately we just haven't seen enough of it. And I'm hopeful, because I have seen enough out of the acting Attorney General Blanche here, that I have seen enough of him that I feel way more encouraged than when Pam Bondi was in office, because Pam Bondi would talk a good game, but I don't think she was going to get. I don't think we would have seen an indictment of James Comey under Pam Bondi.
We almost didn't see the first one because of her incompetence.
Sure,
it's an arguable point. We don't know exactly what goes on behind closed doors and who is to blame. I still don't trust Todd Blanche, but I can't argue with the results. Like you said,
the fruits have been good.
The needle has moved much more than with Pam Bondi. Here's a little bit of positive news on the show that, where we're kind of complaining. Immigrants are giving up their claims in immigration court, according to ABC News, and voluntarily leaving the United States in exponentially higher numbers under the Trump administration, according to a new report based on federal data. In the first hour when I was telling you about that show, Shogun, and how the Protestants found Japan, Catholics were already there. Eventually, the Japanese get tired of both of them and say, "We're done. We're closing off." Mm-hmm. And they were closed for over 100 years until after the Civil War, when they opened things back up. That's what countries used to do. If there was too much foreign involvement and foreign invasion and foreign influence on a country, Japan was like, "Okay, you're done. We're now a closed society. We're going to take care of ourselves."
China did the same thing. Yeah.
This is what you do when you're overrun by third world barbarians. Now, in their case, they were overrun by first world religious evangelizers, but they didn't like that either.
Which was their prerogative,
Which was their right as a sovereign nation to kick us out. So
what's the leader of Japan called? Is it like?
I think they've got a president.
Is
president
it
of Japan?
Okay.
It sounds right. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think if you get an atomic bomb dropped on your country, your system is now going to sound pretty Western. You're the president. They have a president now.
Yeah. So I watched a documentary on Japan's. They had ground invasion plans for the United States. And I can't remember what their initial entry point was. I want to say it was somewhere up in New England that they had all of these ground invasion plans. They were going to send troops to the United States.
Yeah.
We find ourselves to be Eric's listening to the show. I think he likes my comments, although he can't say them on air sometimes. But anywho, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Oh, Japan. Scary, because if we had not dropped those atomic bombs, somebody can say that was terrible. That was it was an overly disproportionate reaction to Pearl Harbor. But if Japan had not just immediately said, "Oh wow, they got us. This war is over. The big dogs are out," I shudder to think what would have happened, because they were pretty ruthless.
They were. I mean, if Japan tried to invade America, that would have been, oh man, that would have been like.
I don't know.
I'm just telling you what. There's good old boys that would have just welcomed the challenge. They'd have been like, okay.
But do you think that was? Do you think that was the case in the 40s? Because I mean, our men had gone to war.
That's true.
And
they
so
were
the women
war.
were.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It was women in charge of the country.
It could have been
Not
worse.
Really, but
it could have been worse.
you get what
but
I'm
you
saying.
do have a gun around every tree. In a vast. It was a vast country when it comes.
But they
to
wouldn't have tried. I don't think they would have tried to take over the whole.
Oh yeah, just like California.
They would have had a And so anyway.
Well, the bottom line is, countries can close their borders and kick people out and say, don't never again. And that appears to be happening here in some cases. Well, no, the country's not actually had a moratorium on immigration, which is what we need. But this is a positive story. There's no way around that. That is for sure.
Well, it is. It's way more positive than, because when you see those numbers being left, it's way more positive that if that trend were to continue by the next census, because then we're going to see just a huge reduction. And we know like there's illegal immigrants living in conservative communities and red communities, but the majority of them are huddled up in these blue states and these blue communities and these blue cities. And so what they're doing is, they're coming in. Some are contributing to the country. I'm not going to try to say that, but I think that the majority of the people, and I've said it on the show a million times, that came in under Biden's 4 years were leeches. They were people that were leeching off of the country because they saw this opportunity, and we were handing out all of this money and all of that stuff. If all of those people are gone, and then there's an actual census that's taken, where all of this is coming into factor, how many House seats are those Democrats going to lose? Way more than the Republicans will, and I guarantee you that.
Yeah. In other news, Rob, this is not fake. President on May 17th at 3:53 p.m. Eastern Time posted this photo to his Truth Social page, and everybody is now speculating, is there some disclosure announcement that is coming?
Oh, come on. That's AI.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think that's real. It doesn't look real.
You don't think... Wait a minute. Did you just say, I don't think that's real?
I don't think that is an actual alien.
Look at that alien six-pack abs.
Hey, man. You're trying to put our standards on an alien?
I'm just saying, like...
We don't know.
Okay, it's that alien has a human physique.
I know. That's why.
Okay, with just an alien head and a green body.
Yeah, it's
here,
like they got all the same. They got all the same muscle groups.
It's not an. This.
Well, in the handcuffs, they aren't even attached, right? It's like a weird thing or whatever. But he did post this, and it got everybody talking.
Yeah. He's got these leg shackles on, but he's walking pretty easily there.
Yeah,
and the president of the free world. The president of the United States, the leader of the free world, essentially, is walking right next to this alien with these shackle handcuffs.
Well, he was Trump personally arrested this guy,
right? But all that alien had to do is just wrap that chain around the president's neck and choke him out. This is the stupidest.
Well, I don't know. This alien does not look happy.
Paul, just say it. You believe in aliens.
He does not. Well, I believe in demonic and fallen angelic beings. Yes,
that guy is like. A Martian or
it
whatever.
It is funny, though. It is an exact human physique that just has a gray alien head on it. It's really hilarious.
B-hops. I'm not saying it's Dennis Rodman, but this is let me read the whole thing. I'm not saying it's Dennis Rodman, but it's Dennis Rodman. I agree with that.
Yeah, man, that's funny. Dennis Rodman. Now that's a callback because remember when Dennis Rodman was like And correct me if I'm wrong, because, I mean, I feel like I was out of commission, but didn't Dennis Rodman try to negotiate world peace with North Korea?
Kim Jong-il, I guess it was Kim Jong-il right back then. I don't think it was Kim Jong-un. It was his dad, because there were it may have been Kim Jong-un. I can't remember. But anyway, he goes over there. They loved Dennis Rodman in North Korea. Loved him. Absolutely thought he was the greatest. And he negotiated, I think, a release of a hostage. If I remember, I can't. This
is just the AI overview here.
Okay.
But it says that between 2013 and 2017, former NBA star Dennis Rodman made multiple high-profile visits to North Korea, developing a controversial friendship with leader Kim Jong-un. Billed as basketball diplomacy, the trips included exhibition games with retired American players, but drew intense global backlash. But I remember when Trump went over and crossed the border and crossed into into North Korea, that Dennis Rodman was like super excited about it. Was like, "This is amazing." I can't believe this that it happened. But no, yeah, people do think Dennis Rodman's an alien because in the Men in Black movies, they straight up say that he's an alien.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if he's an alien, but I do know he married himself. He married himself in drag. And so Dennis is he's not on the sane tree, in my opinion. He might be dangling off the sane tree as a branch there, but I don't know. Anyway, regardless, that's the stupidest photo ever with this AI, meant to look like why would Donald Trump be walking next to this alien, and why does this alien just have a perfect male physique, or not really perfect, but you get what I'm saying. Like, he's obviously works out. He did his ab crunches this morning. And so just has an alien head.
I hear he's got a Planet Fitness membership.
Can you zoom in on that at all?
I can't. I can't. I don't know what's going on.
It's because you have this crappy PC, man. When it's
I just zoomed into 300% and it did nothing. So,
who all thinks this is real? Just tell us if you think it's real.
Who else see the leprechaun say yeah?
Yeah. To me, it looked like a leprechaun to me. Alabama leprechaun. If you've not seen that, you need to look it up.
I got this flute passed down from my great-great-grandfather
from thousands of generations ago.
Thousands of generations
I'm like, dude, that's a long time ago.
Oh my goodness.
What is a generation? 40? Is it supposed to be 40 years? Is that what a
40
generation?
years. Yeah. All right, so here's the deal.
So 40,000 years.
We were talking about female judges and police chiefs the other day, or earlier in the show today.
Hey, listen, there's some female judges that are badasses, man.
Oh yeah. But documenting libs. This doesn't have to do with a police chief or a judge. It just has to do with an alleged homeowners association meeting where somebody has taken this clip, and this is devoid of context. We don't have the full context about this, but apparently some homeowners association meeting took place where the splashing at the swimming pool was just too much. Now, I don't know, I try not to spend a lot of time theorizing what hell could be like, because it's you can trivialize it to the point. It's a real place where real people go. But just rhetorically speaking, I've often joked that the WNBA would be on in hell. But I actually think this is a new. I actually think this is a new contender. Like, if I had to listen to this lady for eternity, take a listen.
Children are permitted. Obviously, that's not the issue. It's the intensity. When splashing becomes continuous, it stops being play. It becomes activity. Activity at that level is shared. Children.
That's all you get.
Okay. Can I?
It's terrible.
Okay. This woman needs a glass of wine, a good date night with a happy ending to relieve some of this stress that she has, because apparently she is all bottled up about all kinds of things here, and she just needs to relax, because what it sounds like is that kids were being kids in the pool. And if kids are permitted, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, they're splashing too much in this pool. Don't be splashing water and playing.
Splashing is playing, but splashing continuously is activity.
Yes, and we cannot have activity. And I've not had any bedroom activity in many years.
Wow, that is low. That's
you know what? 'Cause she deserves nothing. She deserves nothing less.
That's low. But I will say this: you know, people wonder where Karen stereotypes come from, and they come from.
It's her.
People are out there like this lady who's reinforcing.
And she's not just
reinforcing them every single day.
Paul, hit the play again if you got a second, and
Yep,
just
there we go.
see how intensely she says this.
I'm just gonna. I don't even know the context, but I guarantee you, she's been like given some questions by probably a man saying, "Okay, wait a second. Like, are you saying splashing is wrong?" She's gotten this question. Like, are you trying to say that splashing in the pool is illegal?
Children are permitted. Obviously, that's not the issue. It's the intensity. When splashing becomes continuous, it stops being play. It becomes activity. Activity at that level is shared.
She is coming out of her seat. She is wanting to crawl over the table and shake the shoulders of anybody that would dare dissent against her.
She needs to not be on the homeowners association board. She needs to be a PE teacher. I feel like she'd be a great PE teacher. Because this reminds me of many of my PE teachers.
Yeah. So somebody said, in the comments, like, would a glass of wine and a night on the town actually help this? And I'm like, you're right, Deb. I don't think that it will. This woman she's beyond. She's gone. She lives so deep in Karenville.
Obviously, they can splash.
Kids are permitted. That's not what I'm saying.
That's not what.
But they can't have fun. Okay. There will be no fun in the pool.
Smiling is permitted, obviously. But when multiple kids are showing their teeth and smiling, that becomes enjoyment. And enjoyment is activity.
An activity. And one other activity that we're going to have to talk about at this is we cannot have laughing, joking, or jumping. None of those things are permitted, but kids are.
Kids are.
Yes. Kids, just don't make any noise and don't talk to anybody and hold your head down in shame for being a child and alive.
Rob Spencer, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Glad to be here.
The show. Hopefully we will see you tomorrow, or Eric. Hopefully Eric will be back in seat number 3 tomorrow. Folks, that's all the time that we have. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Site, and Sound Pet Club 24/7, and Jared Chiropractic. God bless everybody out there watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.